Okay, in the previous video, we built this page, but I didn't show you, one, what it looks like inside of the application, and then two, how to actually get it to appear inside of the application. So the first thing that we need to do is give this template a name and assign it to a category. So if I go here to category, you'll have a list of different categories you can choose from. I'm just going to select this one here. It says sales agreement, which are a bunch of different categories I already have loaded in my system or in my database, but you can just type in your own category if you want. And then I'm going to give this a name of demo template 1, and then I'll go ahead and save it. Now the other thing you have to do is assign this to different offices and states. So inside of Leap or ProSell, you're able to designate if this template appears in an office. Like, let's say you're working on a template, you don't want your sales reps to use it at this point. You can just sit in here and work on it and not assign it to an actual office. That way, when your reps are in the field, they're not actually able to see it or use it. And then the other thing is, you might want your templates to change based on which state the person is in. I personally used to do in-home sales in the Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania area. I used to cover those 3 states, and my terms and conditions could change in my contracts based on which state that I was in. So if you come here to File, you'll see that we have included states, and you can select, like, let's say this was only available in California, you could just select CA, but I want this to be available across all markets. If you only have one market, it really don't matter. You can just select all and you'll be good. My included offices, if you're using ProSell, you're only going to have one office here. You just want to go ahead and select it. That'll make it appear in the app. If you're using the full Leap version, you have access to different markets. That way you can have different configurations based on how you set it up. I'm going to assign mine to the test office and go ahead and save this document. Now if I come over to the iPad, I can go into my contract section, and if I hit refresh, you'll see my template up at the top is in the sales agreement category that I assigned it to, and it says demo template 1, and I'm going to go ahead and click on this and hit next, and it looks blank, and that's because we don't have any of the body, which is the part that the rep is going to fill out before getting to the PDF. So we're just going to ignore the blank section for a second. I'm going to just hit next, and this will generate our document. So this is the one we just built, has all of the information at the top. 456 South Main Street, Fairfax. Okay, customer information. Only thing that's different is up here. You see that is on 2 lines. So I'm going to abbreviate street, and let's see what that does. Do that and save. Come to the iPad. We're going to hit back and refresh. Okay, good, much better. So now we're on one line. We pretty much look exactly like what we have here. Now it's time to add some information to the body of the contract. The body of the contract is the part that the sales rep fills out inside of the iPad. The header is non-editable from the rep. Only thing really, they could edit is in the estimate where all these placeholders fill in all those details, but there is no real product information that gets put on a header. So what I'm going to do is come back to this screen. I'm going to come here and drag in a body container. We're going to start working off of that. You notice when I drag it, if you do it in the middle, it really doesn't do anything. You have to drag it up underneath of the header until you see that gray bar, and I'm going to let it go. Now you'll see it creates a new section for me to start adding line items, but I want a little bit of empty space up above that. So what I'm going to do is take another section for the header and drag it in at the bottom here. And then I'm going to delete this title. I'm going to click into this, go over here, and let's delete all the groups except one. And this group, this line item, I'm going to just make it empty space. And we can give it a little bit of height. Okay. Now we have some empty space to work with. And for this title, we're going to leave this blank for this section. And this is going to say, I'm just going to copy this. Okay, and let's get rid of this value. We don't want any value to appear. And what I'm going to do is set this up. So if we go to settings, there's different inputs and cell types, etc. So if I go to cell type, I want to make this let's see, we'll make this a sentence input. Input type is going to be just a keyboard, so it's going to ask for a sentence that sets the cell up to fit enough room for a sentence. And then we're going to make the input just a standard keyboard. We're going to make this field required, so the sales rep has to fill it out. We're not going to hide it in the app or the PDF. I'll go over some of these as we go along. We have no value, remember, on the right hand side. I deleted that out, so that's why the default value is blank. We're going to leave that like it is. Okay, now what I can do is just right click on this and copy. Right click again and paste below. And now I have two of the same. And I can just change this to be excluded. Okay, and I think, right. So those are the same. Now you notice this has a gray background on both line items. So I want to come over here. Let's collapse the header. I'm going to select the section. I'm going to go to settings, shading style, and we're going to go to all rows. Okay. So that gives us our included scope. Let me shrink that empty space down a little bit. Nope, wrong one. We are right here. All right, looks good. Okay, now what I want to do is put another section into the body. And actually, we're going to make this an empty space too. And then what we'll do is reuse this empty space. So I'm going to come here, we're going to delete this. And actually, I'm going to come up to settings, change my cell type to empty space. And let's click on this section and make it no border. Okay, now we can bring in another section. And actually, what I'm going to do is rename this section. Just click back into this. And we're going to go to app title. And we're going to call this empty. Or actually, we're just going to leave it blank. That way I know it's empty space when I look in this document tree. This one, we're going to call it scope of work. So you can have an app title, which for the header is more for the viewing in this document tree. So I can just look at this at a glance and know what I'm working with. And then on the iPad, you can have, or the PDF, you can have a totally different text appear. And you'll see that'll come into play later on in this video. So now let's add another section. Okay, oh, it went above my empty space. So I'm going to come over here to the document tree and cut that and paste it above this one. Okay. Now this one is job specifications. I'm just going to copy this. Okay, what do we have first? Existing shingles. Now, I don't want any value to be on the right-hand side. We're going to clear this out. This is if you want to have a value starting when the sales rep opens it up. So we want to clear that out. But my existing shingles, I want the sales reps to pick from a couple different options. There's not too many types of shingles that can be on a roof. So what I'm going to do is click on this cell. We'll come up here to settings. And we're going to make this cell, we'll leave it as text words. But I'm going to change the input type to a picker. Okay, and then once I do that, it gives me some picker options. So we'll put a couple in here. So we'll put asphalt. We'll put asbestos, wood. We'll just put other in case they pick another one. Okay, and asphalt's going to be the ones the most, so we'll leave them in that order. We'll make this a required field. Okay, I think all these are good. Okay, so that's existing shingles. Now we're going to go to install new shingle style. Let's drag a new line item into this section. Okay, and then I'll double click here and clear this out. And we have a couple different options for this. So let's go up here to settings, make it required. Input type, we'll make a picker. Picker options, we'll put Owens corning duration. Okay, so we have 3 different kinds of shingles the sales reps can offer. I'm gonna go ahead and drag another one. Now, let's get a little fancy. We'll start with this one. Let's go back to this existing shingles. If the sales rep was to select other, then I want them to have to type in what kind of shingles they're actually removing. You know, if it's asphalt, asbestos, or wood, they can just select those. But if it's other, I want another line item to appear for them to enter a value into. So what I can do is drag another line item. I'm going to put it in the middle of the 2 we just created. And what we're going to call this is other existing shingles. All right, so we only want this to show up if they select other on this field. Let me clear this out. And then what I'm going to do is come up to here and go to settings. And we're going to change this input type on this one to dynamic. It means it's just going to change dynamically based off of a previous cell. Okay, so when I click dynamic settings show up, and it has 3 different boxes here. Dependent cell, which is asking for which cell is it dependent upon, which we want to make it say it's dependent upon the existing shingles. It has conditions, which when we click plus signs, it says it's basically like the if this, then do something else. So first thing we have to do is give the dependent cell an identifier that we can reference. So if I click on this existing shingle cell, I want to give this an ID, which I go to here to identifier, and I'm just going to type in existing. And you can make it anything you want, just has to be unique across all the other cells on this contract. So that has an identifier of existing shingles. Now when I come to here, I go to settings, and let's choose my dependent cell, and you see now existing shingles pop up. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. All right, when I select that, then I can click a condition. Well, we only need one condition, which is when other is selected. The default condition you can't delete, and that basically just says if nothing matches, if you have no other conditions, what should it do? And we're going to leave this one turned off, and it's not required, so that way it won't even appear in the app, and it'll basically just ignore it. But if I click that plus sign, a new condition pops up down here, and I'm going to go to dependent values. Well, this recognizes that we're using the existing shingle cell, and it knows that there's only 4 values that the sales rep can choose from. So we're going to choose other, and say if other is selected, we're going to show the cell, make it required, and make the input type a standard keyboard. Okay, we're going to leave required off here because it's only required if other is selected. Everything else, it's not required. And then I'm going to go ahead and save this and show you what we have so far on the iPad. Okay, so let's switch over to the iPad. I'm going to hit the refresh button in the bottom right, demo template, next. And you see here is our different cells. Now this blank cell here, this is actually my empty space showing up inside of the application. And you can make that go away. So since that's empty space and nothing is ever going to ask the sales rep to enter any values there, what I'm going to do is come in to here, click my empty space section, go in the settings, and put hidden in app. And that will hide it from the app and only print empty space on the PDF. So let's go back, hit refresh, try it again. Okay, now that bar is gone. So now I made all these things required, so I'm going to hit next, and you'll see like it gives me errors because not everything is filled out. And notice there's only 2 in the scope of work, and here I have new app title. So actually let me come over here to the scope of work, settings, contract title. Oops, hold on. New app title, this one. Settings, app title. So you have the app title and contract title. We're going to put this job specifications. Okay. Notice I only have underneath of this new app title section, there's an existing shingles, new shingles style. However, we have 3 options that we've actually added. Well, the middle one should show up only if I choose other on existing shingles. You see, there it is. And then when I do a little keyboard input, we can just type in and we're good to go. So let's see, let's fill all these out. There's that, this, leave that as other. And then here's our 3 on the shingle styles. Next. Okay, looking good. Let's get rid of the other. Changes to asphalt. And now I only have 2 line items on there. Okay, let's close this and go back. Okay, so there's our shingle style. Now what we want to do is add a line item. Let's say shingle style, shingle color. Now this one, we're going to use what we learned with this other, and we're going to add multiple rules that says, the color options will change based on which style we select. So I'm going to go here and say new shingle color. We're going to leave the value blank. Okay, so let's go into settings, change this input type to dynamic. The settings. So actually this is going to be based off of the style. So we got to give the style an identifier. Dynamic settings, dependent cell, new shingle style. And we're going to add some conditions. So the first one is going to be if its own scoring duration. And we're going to make this required. Input type this time is going to be a pick list. So I'm going to say a picker. Oops. Some of these things it gets annoying, but if you actually click them, they'll stay open. So it owns corning. Input type is a picker. Come on. There it goes. And then here's our picker option. So we're going to put, I'm not sure the Owens color. So what we're going to do is put duration color 1, 2, you get the point. Okay, we'll leave the default value as blank. Now we're going to add another condition. So if it's Owens Corning duration, if they select that on the new shingle style, then these are the different colors that they can choose from. And we're going to add another condition. This time we're going to say if they select the Supreme, then make it required. Give them a pick list. And let's give these options. Oops, I put them, I don't know how I missed the 3. Well, it's nice I put them in here and just drag this up. And we're good. Okay, and let's add one more condition. This time, it's going to be Oak Ridge. Required. Picker. Okay, looks good. Everything else looks good. Let's go ahead and save this. And let's check our work. So let's come back to the iPad. We're going to hit the refresh. Okay, now we only have 2 of them here. So let's type in some details here, here, asphalt. Now, if I choose one of these, Owens Corning duration, okay, my colors pop up, and it should be all duration colors. If I change this to Supreme, I should have all Supreme colors. If I change this to Oak Ridge, then I have all Oak Ridge colors. I hit next, and then my document is generated. Okay, let's keep going. Let's look at our document. So we have shingle color, starter strip type. So let's just go ahead and put another cell in there, line item. We're going to make default to starter. We're going to make it say starter shingles. And then what we're going to do is click in the settings, make it a picker. And we're going to give the sales rep the option, obviously, to do starter, which is what its defaulted as. But we're also going to give the option to use 3 tab. Okay, this is going to be a required field as well. And all that looks good. Okay, so let's come back here. Underlayment, install underlayment. Let's add that one. And we're going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to just put a default value already in there. I think I spelled that right. And then let's come up here and give them a couple different options. We'll make that required as well. Okay, install drip edge. This is going to be a default value of F. And then we're going to basically do the same thing, picker. Whatever. Required on that. Okay. Drip edge color. Most of the time it'll probably just be white. So we'll put that there and give them a couple options to choose from. Oops. Okay, now this one's going to be a little bit different. Install ice and water shield on gutter eaves and valleys. One to make this say included or not included. There's only 2 options. So if I come here and drag a new line item in, I'm going to change the title. Okay, and we'll make this default to included. But what I want to do is change the cell type on this to an on-off switch. So if I go here and change this to switched, you see now I have an on value and an off value. So if I go to the on value, when the sales rep turns this switch on, it's going to say included. And when the sales rep turns it off, it's going to say not included. They have to pick one. So that'll turn on and we're good. Now, if you ever want to see what it looks like on the app side, at the top of the screen, you have this little app button. If I click it, you can see what it's going to look like on the iPad. You see there's the on-off switch. So, the rest of them are, just text fields. So they just look like, blank rows. But that one actually shows you the switch there. If you want to view them both at the same time, works really good on big monitors, but you can actually edit them both. And you can see as you edit it on one, it will actually change it on the other side as well. So I like working in the PDF view. And let's go ahead and save this and just make sure. I always like to save it and check as we're going along. Make sure there's no surprises. So let's come to the iPad. Okay, there's my on-off switch. So that should say not included when I turn that off. You see most of the duration, color. Most of the other things are already filled in for me because there's default values there. But if I click into them, you see there's my other options. put some information up here and hit next, and we'll get to the PDF. Okay, looking good. Let's close this out and keep working. So we have this one. So actually this is the same as the other one. I want to copy this. This one says included or not included. So what I'm going to do is actually come here and copy this one, paste below, and just edit what's different. Okay. Okay, so now this one actually has a number and a quantity. And I want this quantity to auto-populate based on what the sales rep added on the estimate. So this one, we're actually going to add a cell, and then we're going to link the quantity of that cell to this row. So let's first start with the line item. Let's change the title. The value will leave blank. And then this is going to be a number input, so let's set that up. I'm going to come here and make the input type a not a number keyboard. We're just going to do a keypad, and it's hold numbers, so I'm going to select this one. Okay, I'm going to make this required. Now down at the bottom we have these things that say link measure sheet item, link quantities, or link totals. I'm going to link the quantities. I want it to total up the quantities of this one's going to be the ridge vent. So I'm going to click this, and then I'm going to come here and select my categories. We're going to use roofing, and this is accessing the price guide. So you obviously have to have items in the price guide in order for these things to appear, but I just find the line item that has ridge vent. And you can select multiple, and what it will do is, like, if the sales rep entered a quantity of 10 in this one and 20 in this one, then it will add the two together and it'll put 30 in that field. I only needed to link the ridge vent, so I'm just going to do that one, hit done, and now the quantity will show up. So you see here I have linked quantities, one line item. Let me go ahead and save this and show you how this works. So I'm going to come back to the iPad. Let's refresh this, and you'll see off the get, it has a quantity of 0, and that's because I haven't added anything. Let's come to the estimate, go into my roofing category, and let's add, oops, I don't have ridge vent added to that office. So actually let me come here to the price guide, and oops. And we're going to go to ridge vent right here. And I'm just going to select all of my offices. Save it. Okay, now let's refresh this. Contracts. Okay, so there's 0. And then if I come here to roofing, here's my ridge vent, and I'm going to put a quantity of 50. Come back to the contract. Now I have to resync it, right? So I just click off of it, click on it, hit next, and there's my quantity of 50 down there at the bottom. Fill all this out. All right, there's my 50. Let's keep moving along. Okay, so ridge vent style. Okay, so now you see that this style is obviously the sales rep's not typing this in. I want this to come over based on what they selected on the estimate side. So let me show you how this works. If I click this, hit copy on there, and I'm going to come back to my contract. And let's expand this. Okay, now this one we're going to put ridge vent style. Now for the value, what we want to do is use placeholders. So I'm going to open up another site, and this one's going to be our website, leaptodigital.com/docs. And over here on the left-hand side, underneath of contracts and proposals, if you click placeholders, and this will give you a bunch of different placeholders that you can use throughout the contract. So what I want to do is look at the price item. So here's the measure sheet items you can use. And this might not make sense right now, but as I go through this video, it should. And what we want to do is, you see here we have like the selection brand and the selection name. Well, if I come back to the price guide, and I look at the ridge vent, which is what we are talking about, and I expand this, you see here I have a certainty shingle vent 2. Let's add an Owens Corning one to this. So let's go here, new price guide option. I don't know what the ridge vent is called. Whatever. Okay, let's save this. So now what I want to do is on the contract, when the sales rep adds the ridge vent, the quantity will come over, but I want it to say the brand and which brand and name is selected. So if the sales rep selects the certaintied ridge vent, well, then I want that to appear on the contract. But if they select the Owens Corning one, we'll want that to appear on the contract. So you see here we have the options, the green rows are options, and we have a brand and we have a name. So if I come back to our documentation, you'll see here you have the selection brand and the selection name. So since they are both part of this measure sheet item, I could link this measure sheet item and I could get the selection brand and name by using those two placeholders. So let me tie it in all together and hopefully this will make sense. So if I come here, I can go percent selection brand, and then I'll put a hyphen percent selection name. Okay, so now it should say certainty dash shingle vent 2 if I select that one, or Owens Corning dash best ridge vent if I select that one. However, if I just were to save this and do it, let me just show you. I'll save it, come back to the iPad, and if I were to do this, you'll see that it will keep the placeholders there. So refresh, click this, and oh, actually, it replaced them with blank values, and that's because it's really not linked to anything. So let me come back to this. Ridge vent. Oh, I'm sorry. It's a 0. Ridge vent cent length. Okay. So now I'm going to come into link measure sheet item. So instead of the quantity or the total, I'm going to link measure sheet item. I'm going to select that ridge vent. Done. Okay. Now it should be linked. Yes. Now I will save it. Come over to here. Okay, there's certainty shingle vent 2. Now if I come here and hit edit, and oops, I gotta refresh my price guide because I added an option. Let's try that again. Oops. Okay, let's switch it to this one. Best ridge vent. Contract. And you see that Owens Corning best ridge vent. So you see that just links right over. And there's my quantity. Hit next. All right, so that's how you link items. If you were able to pick that up, that's probably the second hardest part to the whole entire system. The only other one is linking upcharges, which we'll get to in a later video. So let's go. We're almost done this section. We're going to add these ones, which are very similar to this one. Okay, I'm actually going to make this default to black. Okay. And one more. Okay, let's go ahead and save that and check our work. Let's go over here. Type in some gibberish here. Okay, you see all these. You got my different color options. Looks good. Okay, now you see this one, how I can edit this. I don't want my sales reps to change it unless they change it on the estimate side. So what I'm going to do is disable both of these fields so the sales rep cannot change it, because I want the ridge vent to be picked on the estimate side and not changed on the contract side. So what I'm going to do is come over here. I'm going to select this one, the length. I'm going to go to settings and just disable editing. Same thing for the ridge vent style. Disable editing. I will also make this required. So now let's save this. And when I come back to this screen, they should be grayed out. Okay, good. Let's fill this out and make sure that it looks good on the PDF. All right, we're almost there. So I'm going to pause this video and we'll start again, and I will show you how to add line items like this skylight that will dynamically populate based on what is added on the estimate screen.